you've got courage to lead. Courage to lead. Be brave and be bold. Oh, oh, oh. Let it roar.
Welcome to the Courage to Leap and Lead podcast, where each of our guests share the stories of courage that helped them become powerful leaders. Before we start today's show, please remember to visit courageconsulting.com, where you can find all of the episodes and lots of other excellent resources. That's courageconsulting.com. Now, here's your host, leadership courage coach, CB Bowman.
Hello, everybody. It's CB. This week, we have a wonderful guest. You know, the tune that you hear now, when you log in to hear one of my podcasts, you hear beginning and you hear a great song. And today's guest is the person that wrote the song. So I know you're going to be really, well, we wrote it together. Really excited about this and to hear his journey of how he got to be such a famous person in writing songs for people as they step on the stage that really represents the person and the heart of the person speaking. I'm so excited to introduce Lowry to you today. Audience, this is Lowry Olfson. Please meet my partner in crime, Larry. Hi, how are you today?
I'm great, CB. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, thank you. You have such a wonderful smile, great energy coming through.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, you too. There we go.
So, Larry, before we start, tell me, why did you want to be on the show? Why did you want to share your gifts with such a wonderful audience?
Well, courage is just, where are we without it, right? It's just such an important value and such an important thing to have. And it's been fun to listen to some of your different guests and the way that they talk about it. And I like your idea about micro courage and that these are sometimes small acts, that we're not always running into burning buildings. Sometimes it just stepping out of your comfort zone in some way, sometimes just saying good morning to somebody is a game changer for them and for you. And, it just takes a little, not a lot, but some, So, so I just love the topic. I have a lot of songs about kind of not being held back by, not believing and that kind of thing. So it's been kind of a theme that's run through my songwriting all my life, too.
That's exciting because I've heard some of the songs that you've done for other people. And you know what? Regardless of how serious the subject is, your songs bring in the power and the uplift. And so people say, okay, I'm ready to change. I'm ready to make a move now. Yeah.
Well, music can do that, right? Music is this thing that can really create transformation very instantly. And you don't even know why. It's the music, but like if you watch a movie and you cry, it's because no, right? But if it's but if you're inspired by it, or even if you feel anxious, it's because the music is going dum 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 dum, right? So
I never realized that.
Yeah, big time, and people don't realize it. They kind of blow music off as if because they don't understand the power of audio and the power of music to change how we feel. And I'm really interested in ways of kind of getting out of anxiety and fear and worry and all those kinds of things quickly and strategically. And music is a you feel right away just that is like, wow, okay.
No wonder why you hear on The Voice and American Idol and those shows, you hear kids, well, all ages, now not all ages, get on and they tell a really sad story. And then they said, music saved them. I could never understand that. But now that you're explaining it so that I realize when I'm watching something, all of a sudden, depending upon the music, I'll feel uplifted.
Yeah. And if you're singing it, the studies show that, music actually changes your brain chemistry. Singing takes it to a whole nother level. And it doesn't matter whether you sing in tune or not,
Really?
Oh yeah. Singing physiologically. And when people sing together, there's a reason that, anthems have gotten people through very difficult times, like going into battle or, working in the fields, and, people sing together. It creates oxytocin, that feel good chemical, and it's a bonding chemical. So music is, and audio is only really kind of beginning to be appreciated and used, right?
I never thought about it before. It's funny because when you watch sports games and you hear the national anthem, there are some singers, not all, but they get you going. Yeah. And you're like, wait, where did that come from? I was just sitting here watching a sports game.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And of course, I have a particular bias towards songs, because I think that when you marry the right lyrics with the right music, that it just becomes, you think of a song like Somewhere Over Somewhere, just those two notes, somewhere, it opens you up like this, right? And you go from being, kind of negative and down, and your world is, and your vision is very small, and those two notes go ba ba, right? So, or Beethoven, da, ba, ba, bum, right?
You're waiting for something to happen.
But that's all it takes, is a couple of notes, right?
It's interesting. I'm thinking now with my focus on courage, that people have to get out and sing the song that we wrote together, and then all of a sudden they're going to feel more courageous. I like that idea.
Well, they do, and so will you. That's what I love about writing them, especially with speakers and people that are using them as, when they walk on stage, and a song like yours, which is very, powerful and authentic and uplifting kind of a song. Not only does it affect the audience when you walk on stage and you have all this kind of gravitas and like, who's this? But it also affects the way that you walk on, because you can't walk on, how do you like me now? Right? to that kind of an anthem. It's like you step into this other presence that you have, right?
A friend of mine just wrote a book, Sharon Melnick. I don't know if you could see it, but it's called In Your Power.
Oh, I love it.
And it's like stepping into your power, right?
Oh, nice. In your power. That's great.
She's an amazing writer, and the subline is react less, regain control, and raise others. And excuse me, if you haven't seen no, you haven't seen it, because excuse me, allergies. It hasn't been released yet, but when it's released, my interview of her, you're going to run out and get this book. I'll tell you.
Cool. Well, the other guest that you had on was Joel Garfinkel, and his book Executive Presence is all about stepping into being bold and decisive and all of those kinds of things. Yeah, I mean, I just hear your interview with him, I found really inspiring. I got his book right away after I heard that interview.
Well, I'm glad that my interviews work, because my colleagues, my friends out there are writing some amazing stuff, and it's in support of courage, right?
Yeah.
So, Larry, tell me about you as a young man. How did you grow up? How did you get so inspired and so creative?
Well, I mean, music was a big part of my family, like from day one. My mom was a piano teacher. My dad played sax, not professionally, he was an engineer, but we had a lot of sing-songs. We all had to take piano lessons, and I switched to violin at 9, and then I took up the guitar when I was about 11. So I would have an instrument I didn't have to practice, because I hated the practice, and I hated the discipline of, I don't like the way they teach music with, the focus on reading music and stuff. Because I think it just puts a barrier between you and, you can press the keys down and make music. You don't need to read it off a page, Mm-hmm. And so, but I loved music, and I was in musicals and, performing in things when I was a kid. We just did all that stuff, and I was kind of a show off, and I loved that stuff. And then once I started playing guitar and writing my own songs when I was around 11, then it was just
11.
Yeah, kind of around there. Yeah. And I mean, they weren't great songs. Would you like to hear my first song?
Yes.
Vandaville. It was about a Russian guy who fell in love with an American. It's stupid. And so he had an accent. Vanda will you walk with me? Vanda will you walk? Vanda will you walk with me? Or maybe stop and talk. Like, not great, right? But plenty of encouragement and courage, give courage, right? Applause, all that kind of stuff, you know. And I remember I went and even before that, I remember winning my first talent contest. I didn't win. I came third, but it was like a talent thing at some camp. And they had passed around the hat. And so I got like $4.10 for singing one song, you know, and it's like, I'm liking this. This works for me.
You're off and running.
Yeah. Yeah. So all through high school, I kept on. I had a really great music teacher in grade 7.
I want to tell the audience, Lowry does not charge $4.50 these days. Just to let you know.
No, well, you know, you got it. Inflation.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But all through high school, I would put on coffee houses, so my friends and I would have some place to play, and I would always feature myself, you know, as one of the performers. And I just had so much encouragement from my friends and people that were just, you know, loved that I was so into music, and lots of support. And I, you know, wrote songs all the time as I got older and stuff. And I think then, you know, kind of after I got out of high school, though, I tried to like play in bars and stuff like that. And I just didn't cut it. I was writing my songs were way too kind of introverted and self-absorbed, and not, you know, they weren't kind of songs that got people drinking and stuff like that. And so I like
31 bottles of beer on the wall.
Totally. Yeah. And so even though my friends, you know, kind of like that, it was just a different world. And I think it kind of hit me kind of hard because I had kind of probably delusions of grandeur and thought that this was what I was going to do, you know. But then even when I was 15, you know, I said to my dad, you know, I want to be a songwriter and a performer. And Dad said, well, you know, it's great that you like music, Lowry, but it's not much of a way to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, you know, I wasn't one of those people that just said, I'll show him. It was like, oh, okay. You know, maybe not, right?
Yeah.
But it was in my blood, and I did so many different jobs, but you know, over the course of my lifetime, and had all kinds of different things, and I don't regret any of them. But you know, everything from being a professional ski patroller to doing carpentry to cooking, waiting tables. I mean, I owned a clothing store for a while, restaurant. I mean, everything, right? But I kept on always writing songs and trying to. I never really gave up on music because it's the thing I love. It's, you know.
So now you're really a great success. Everybody that I talk to about you, and I play the song that you wrote for me, that we wrote.
We wrote it, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Who's this person? Yeah.
Well, so I just want to say something about that. So your song, the reason we wrote it together, CB, is that I know a lot about kind of technical stuff and structure and how to, you know, find kind of the right language and stuff like that. But what I don't understand, the reason I have to collaborate with you to write that song is only you know the nuances of what, you know, how do you want to be seen? Is it this word or that word? Is it, you know, what do you want people to know about you? How do you want them to feel? You know, how do you want this song to represent you? Right. So those are the kinds of things that I actually love because what it gives me a chance to do is really just deep listening, because I'm not offended. I have nothing to prove here. My goal as you know, in creating a song brand for you is to create a song brand for you, not something for me. I've got my own songs. I want you to own that song and feel like this is me, right? And I would fight for every word in this song because I've thought about it, right?
That's a wonderful description, because in working with you, I just thought, first of all, I didn't really understand what you did. And then when I talked to you and I said, because I come from a marketing background, I said, oh, you write a person's brand in a song. And I said, so you're doing song branding. So
Yeah.
he said,
That's
yeah, that works. That's a great title. So we sort of came to that together.
Well, you gave me that. I used to call them power songs, right? Because I've been writing, I was writing individual power songs, but this is different. This is a brand. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. And so I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting journey. It was hard work. Don't let me fool you. But it was so rewarding, because somehow in writing a song together with a songwriter, and I didn't understand about putting it to music and how powerful it became. And I thought, it helps you think through, this is going to sound weird, but it helps you think through who you are.
Totally.
It's, I don't know how to describe what happens, but it's an interesting thing, because when you say to people, what do you want to say? And who are you? And who do you admire? And you put all of those things together. It's almost like doing a pinup board of your life. And I had really not experienced that before. And it was challenging, because I thought, throughout the years, there's various people I admire and things like that. But who did I want to sound like was a different question. And so I thought, I don't know any song that's really coming to my mind that really represents me and who I wanted to sound like. And all of a sudden, Tina Turner and Pink came to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I don't know if I could do Pink, right? I mean, she's got such a unusual range. And so does Tina Turner, but somehow I felt that Tina Turner, I don't know this woman personally, but somehow in her music, she represented strength.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And so did Pink, but in a different way, a slightly different shift. So did Adele. And I know darn well I couldn't do Adele, right?
Well, I don't see Adele as being as representative of you, right? I mean, when we do the process, I always ask people to send me, examples of songs that you like and you think these songs make you feel the way that you want your people to feel when they hear your song, right?
Yes.
So, we're not, but so I like having that kind of sense because I need to know what we're going for.
Yeah.
But I felt like you nailed it with Tina Turner.
Yeah, I think I just got it. It's like Pink and Adele are talking about relationships.
Right.
But Tina Turner, when she talks about simply the best, I mean, she's talking about a relationship, but just that simply the best can apply to so much in life.
Mm-hmm.
That nailed it for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was nice to have that as kind of inspiration for us. And that's a good way to write a song quickly, is to say, well, what am I going for? Just to have that kind of clarity, right?
Yeah. And then we looked at the book that I did that's coming out in May, everybody, called Courage to Leap and Lead. And I said, I wanted something that could be an anthem for the book. And so we went through some of the key words in the book, and that's how we came up with the song. It's such an exciting process. I mean, I encourage every speaker out there to have their own song brand.
Well, to me, it's of course, I love doing that work, and I want to do that, but it just makes sense to me because people are just so missing out. Why would you walk on stage to a Katy Perry song, when you can, that does nothing for your brand. It doesn't, yes, it pumps up the audience and there might be some nostalgia, but it doesn't make you memorable. It doesn't put your message, make it stick in people's heads. It doesn't have the nuances of what exactly do you want to say. I mean, we thought a great deal about, everything that went into your song, and your song is for sure, it's an anthem for you, but I like it if that song can become an anthem for other people.
Oh, yes.
So that this becomes their cheerleading song, and they listen. So yeah, you can listen to, one of those other songs, but why not listen to CB's song? Why not listen to Let It Roar?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And let that be the song. And then, if people go away from your performance or your presentation, your keynote or whatever, and they've got your song, CB's song, stuck in their head, and then they go and phone her and they listen to her voicemail, and the first thing they hear is her song again, and then they watch her videos or listen to her podcast and they hear her song again. This is all airplay that used to only be reserved for the big companies that could afford TV and radio airplay. But yes, people are using music everywhere, but they're inconsistent, and it isn't their brand.
Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of like,
well, I'll tell you, it's funny because since we wrote that, I've had some moments, of the imposter syndrome, and I sit and listen to my song and I go, okay, let's let it roar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really good.
Well, what is imposter syndrome? It's just this kind of, it's cerebral, right? It's kind of, I always think of being disembodied, worry and fear and all these things. They call it the red zone, and it's all thinking. Right.
Yes.
So it's all like these, how do you quickly get out of that? Because that is missing the whole point. Exactly. It's easy to get into fear and worry and think, oh, I don't know how I'm going to pay. Meanwhile, it's like, I've got food in the fridge. There are no wars going on. I'm still breathing, yes. Like 99% of things are going great. And, why am I thinking I can't do this? Look how much I've done. Look how far I've come. Look what I've survived. Of course, everything's good. Of course I'm capable, right? So it's like in music, you shift out fast, right?
Yes, exactly. You let it roar.
Yeah. Well, and you get back to the real world. This is not the real world. Fear and worry and all that. That is not the real world.
I love that. I love that thinking. It's not the real world.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us about a time or two when you got caught in the doldrums and you felt like you failed. And how did you have the strength to get to where you are now? I mean, that's just, you're it.
Okay. Well, I think this whole songwriting thing has really kind of laid the foundation for me to challenge, to be thrown in. Like at one point, you take a lot of rejection as a songwriter and, as a performer and stuff. And I've done, I have 9 albums of my own, and I've toured and I've done lots of that. But the thing was, what I found the most challenging was when I was invited to go into the schools and work with kids. And I thought, okay, well, instead of just talking about songwriting, I'm just going to write a song with the kids. And it was really fun. The first one I wrote was high school kids, and it was called I Slept In. And they loved it. They loved the process. And I kind of went in and I was out of my comfort zone, but it's like, okay, well, let's just go, right? And then it sort of turned into, I started getting more requests to come in and do this. And so all of a sudden, I did a showcase, and I got 85 schools booked me to come in and write a song every day. And then, with 35 kids in the morning, write it, record it, and make sure the kids like it, the principals like it, the parents like it, all that. And then perform the song for the entire school after lunch, do a show, and teach it to the whole school at the end of the day. It was like, this is impossible. And I had no choice. It was just kind of like, I've got 2.5 hours to do this, to get this song and do it. And it brought up imposter syndrome, like you can't believe, CB.
Really?
I was just like so out of my, out of my comfort zone. I mean, it was just like, this is impossible. Like, how can you possibly do this? I take months to write my own songs, and I go agonize. It's like, but what I found was that, writing with the kids and being the guy that was kind of egging them on, but, taking their ideas, and we were writing like good songs that held together in 2 hours. I did a kids album, went to number 5 on the Galaxy Kids channel with 18 of these songs.
Wow.
And I did like 450 of these things all over the place. So, and you know what? The imposter syndrome never went away.
Now, that's interesting to hear right then and there, because I remember, this is sort of a diversion, but I remember, what was her name? Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah.
So she wanted to stop smoking. This is going to be a weird story in relationship to what you're saying. She wanted to stop smoking. And so she realized that the only time she smoked was when she was about ready to go on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So she decided that she would smoke after she went on stage. And guess what happened? She stopped smoking. So it's like that imposter syndrome, you allow to step aside, not step in front. And you just kept going. And, we talk about having to get rid of this. And you're asking me, what does the cigarette story have to do with the imposter syndrome? I don't know. It just it flashed in front of me. But the point is that many of us think we have to get rid of the imposter syndrome totally, when in fact, you almost use it as an energizer to keep going. You just put it aside.
Well, if you've read any of Stephen Kotler's stuff, he founded the Flow Research Collective, or Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, or whatever his name is. The whole flow thing about flow is, and I only learned this a couple of years ago, that the first stage of flow is struggle. So, you always are getting to that point of like being overwhelmed and frustrated. What do I do with all this? But, there was the same thing for Einstein. And then he would walk away and he'd go sailing or he'd go rowing. And I would do this with the kids. It's like, okay, all right, you guys, let's go outside and we're going to run around the field and come back in. And we'd have the idea when we came, because the next stage is that you kind of let the subconscious do it for a bit and then come back, and then you have the breakthroughs, right? And so I stopped, and now I recognize that I'm always, if we're not struggling, we haven't loaded enough data into there. But the brain, the next stage is pattern recognition. And so at that point, it's kind of like you got all this stuff, and then it all comes together. So now I'm learning to trust and value that process. So I think that, for me, a lot of my bandwidth was going to like hiding the fact that I was incompetent. Meanwhile, I've done over 400 of them and they've turned out well. So, some may be better than others. Hope is Like a Chicken was not one of our better songs. But the kids still, Hope is Like a Chicken, but the kids still ask for that one, like they still like it, right? So, what I mean? It's like some of our work is better than others, but yeah, it's just getting to the next stage with that stuff. It's kind of like you go in as an imposter and then you have breakthroughs.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the idea that that imposter syndrome can actually support you in breakthroughs, that it's, you're collecting all the data.
Yeah.
And you can massage the data into breakthrough steps in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really nice if you can just recognize that and then not spend a lot of your precious energy on freaking out about it, and just saying, this is just part of the process. I'm going to be frustrated and stuck by the time, this is just part of the process, right?
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah.
That helps me an awful lot. We'll talk about that awful lot offline. But in the meantime, I want to let the audience experience the song that you wrote. And for me,
we wrote.
We wrote together.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so excited about it. As you can see, I'm grinning ear to ear, as they say. Can you play it?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I hope this all works.
If not, we'll try it again.
It's looking promising here. And I'm just got it. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, and let's go back to the beginning of the song. Here we go.
You've got courage to lead. Courage to lead. You're fierce and you're fearless. You've got the courage to be bold. Stand up and stand tall. Know you're invincible. Be brave and be bold. Oh yeah, let it roar. Be brave and be bold. Oh yeah, let it roar.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I get so energized when I hear that.
Yeah, how can you not be, right?
Thank you so much. It was just, it's such a wonderful experience. And I really encourage all speakers to have their own song.
Yeah, and I'm going to feature, I'm building a new website for Songbrand, songbrand.ca. It should be up in a couple of weeks. And your video will be on there with the song. So if people want to hear it again and they want to hear other songs, they can.
Well, it will definitely encourage them. And I thank you so much. Hey, tell me, when you meet a new client, what goes on in your head?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
How do you evaluate whether or not you want to work with a person?
Well, I like working with people that are having an impact and are making a difference and are really have something, really have a gift to give people, a generous spirit and stuff. It's really interesting because I started off thinking that I would write a lot of these for speakers, but I've had, last week I wrote one with a woman who is a Medicare broker. She's, she just sells Medicare to people, and what, it's like Medicare is a big deal, right? In the US, I'm Canadian, we don't have to deal with this. There's a 7-month window when you turn 65. If you don't get your Medicare thing right, you're penalized 10% for the rest of your life. Like, it's expensive for you to get it wrong, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, and maybe a lot of people don't. And so this woman, she said, and people are just so overwhelmed because it's so complicated. There's plan A and plan B and all this stuff. And so, I said, well, what do you, so we just kind of had this conversation about, well, what do you do for people? What do they need? And she just said, well, I just kind of make it simple, right? I take care of stuff. I explain things to them. I do all this. And so, we talked about it. And so for me, it's just like, I said, it sounds to me like that your tagline should be, of all the things that people are dealing with, it being so complicated and overwhelming is like the worst aspect of it. So I said, how about if your tagline is make Medicare simple, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, yes, this is it. And so, so we wrote a really cool song for her that just, it goes, make Medicare simple. And even just that melody, right? I spent a lot of time, I was up like 4 hours in the night. I kept on getting ideas for the melody and for different things, but it's like, you want to build this stuff into the melodies, right? And so I could have gone, make Medicare simple, make Medicare simple. There's a lot of things you could do, but to me, it really, make Medicare simple, right? There's something da 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 da, right? There's a gravitas and there's a simplicity about that. Right?
Yeah.
So I like that. So it goes, and her name is Nutan Patel. But if you look at the spelling, it looks like Newton. She's from India, so it's not a typical Anglophone name. Mm-hmm. And so the song also gave us an opportunity to teach people how to pronounce her name. So it goes, make Medicare simple. Make sure you got the facts. Make sure you got Newton, because Newton's got your back. She'll help you, she'll make sure that you're covered. She'll help you get what you need. Make Medicare simple. Now put your mind at ease. That's what people want, is to put their mind at ease, right?
Yes.
And do all this stuff. So that song emotionally, like music, melodically takes you on a journey that works that way. And we did it over like a Margaritaville kind of vibe.
Yes.
Right. So it's like in the last picture of Put Your Mind at Ease has like an Airstream trailer and lawn chairs and all that stuff. And then a picture of her. And so what happens when you have this, people feel like they know you, they feel like they can trust you. Yes. It's like the McDonald's ba-da-ba-ba-da, right? It creates a connection. There's a light feeling that comes from that. And this only happens, like people blow jingles off like they have no value, but they are really great for getting to the heart of a message and creating a feeling and building trust quickly. One woman I know, she uses hers in her Zoom waiting room all the time. She plays her video and her song, and she says, even before people meet me, and even before we've spoken, they feel like they know me. They have a sense of me. And her song is again an uplifting kind of a song and she does multi-level marketing, and so she's trying to there's a lot of ways in which places where building trust is really an important thing, and to have a song that brings you together and ties, when people at your conference and people that listen to your podcast, when they listen to your song, they feel connected to you.
Yes. Yeah.
We're on the same page. This is, I relate so much to CB because of the song, right? That's who she is. It's like letting people have a window deep into your soul and into your heart and into your message, right?
So my question to you as we end this wonderful meeting interview, when are you writing a song for yourself?
Well, I've written a couple. My kind of the original power song that I wrote was when I was coming out of a marriage that was ending, and that was a pretty big deal for me. It was a pretty courageous thing to have the clarity and the courage and stuff to realize that was this needed to end, and I needed to kind of save myself and move on. And at that point, it was kind of like people who are saying, well, if you leave this marriage, you're going to lose everything, and you're going to be living up on the side of the mountain, in a trailer, and I just said, well, I don't care. I'm prepared to do that.
What's interesting is you just got back from a great trip to Bali, didn't you?
Well, exactly, and so. And not only that, I don't live on the side of the mountain.
No,
the mountain's up there. I live on the ocean. I have a beautiful house on the ocean, and I didn't then. I was coming out of that, and somebody said, well, why don't you do affirmations? And I said, well, I don't find them very effective. They create, if you say I'm a millionaire, and you're working at McDonald's, the brain just says, well, that, there's a disconnect here. And so, it's not effective. But she said, well, why don't you write a song then? And I thought, okay, I'll write a song. So I wrote this song. I just thought, what do I want? What would I like my life to look like ideally, right? And to put it aside whether that's likely to happen. So the song I wrote went, I got a house on the water and someone to love. I laugh and sing and work and play. I'm living in the flow, helping people grow. Joy and adventure every day. And that was it. And I just thought, I don't have a house on the water, but, that's what I want. I just kept singing. And then it got me, every time I would sing it, I would be in that, you talk about that imposter and the anxiety and the fear and the kind of thinking small, playing small, cerebral, mission statement kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And this thing would put me into song stuff, which was full body, whole body, heart. And what it did was, when you're down here, you're depressed, you're looking down and you don't really see much. But as soon as you get into gratitude, it's like, oh, you look around, and I started to think, well, actually, there is a way I could get a house on the ocean. What if I did this? And what about that? And it's like, oh, if I was willing to, do this. And so, I ended up building a house with my sister and my brother-in-law. They had this property that they had for years and they weren't doing anything with it. And it's like, what if I came in and, I can oversee the project. I can help design the house. I can work with the builder and the architects and do all this. I could do all those things. And I had, what I had from it. So the two of us were able to do that. And so, now I walk out the door and I'm paddling on my paddleboard, or I'm rowing in my beautiful rowboat, or, like it seemed impossible to me. I mean, literally, I'm not allowed to say that that's impossible, but as far as I'm concerned, it's impossible. And here it is, a reality. And it started with the song. It started with me saying, I got a house on the water and someone to love, and, and I, attracted a beautiful relationship and this kind of work that is, brings me so much joy to be able to, creativity brings so much joy, and to be able to share that with other people and to let other people shine, help other people shine, and to really listen deeply and capture their essence, and to, turn that into music is, it's a pretty nice life.
I'd say.
Yeah.
But Lowry, what is your next song then?
Oh, I've got so many songs on the go all the time now.
For you.
Oh, for me? Well, I just wrote one. I'm writing one right now called You Can Go Anywhere, which is, where's the lyric? Hang on one sec. Let me see if it's here. I don't know if I can get my hands on it quick. It has, anything is possible, you're unstoppable when you set your eyes on the blue horizon, and anything is doable. It all comes down to you, just spread your wings and something or other. And then, and you know what, this came to me in a dream. This chorus came to me in a dream. I'm getting so many songs in dreams these days. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And the chorus goes, the chorus goes like this. I'm going to turn this on for a better sound. Okay. You can go anywhere. Whatever you imagine, whatever, here it is. You can go anywhere. Whatever you imagine, if you don't try, you never know. Hey, you can go anywhere. Anywhere you dream of, you can go. So that's the song I'm on right now.
I love it. I love it. What a perfect way to end this interview. We're going anywhere.
Yeah.
Lowry, thank you so much for being on the show today. I just didn't even imagine how much fun it would be.
Hey, my pleasure, CB. It was so fun. I'm so glad I got to know you. Big thanks to Anna Malikian for introducing us.
Absolutely. She is a wonderful, wonderful person. Yeah. Talk about mindset zone. That's our Anna Malikian.
Yeah.
We'll talk soon. Okay, everybody. Listen, this has just been so much fun. And I am looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye now. Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, CB.